Welcome to an all-new episode of The Edge Whitetails. Something a little different for y'all today. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Like I said, something a little different for you today. Most of the deer, most of the bucks in our hunting property have not shed their antlers yet. And today, February 7th, we have such a beautiful day here in Northeast Iowa, and I'm off work a little early on a Friday afternoon. Gonna check out some public ground spots in the area, but a little bit further out, and just gonna do a little scouting. Gonna have you follow along. Hopefully maybe we find something cool. Maybe we won't, but this is definitely something I like to do this time of year. We're still, I would say I've probably got 80% of our bucks still holding their antlers in the hunting ground, give or take. A few of them have dropped just this past week, so it's encouraging. That's coming, the shed hunting videos from there. But I not only just hunt our ground, I like to get, especially if I see something, on a drive around the countryside or something local, see a nice buck in a certain area, try and do what I can to get on him. And this time of year, I like to get out into some of these public spots and, do a little scouting around. You have a perfect roadmap to what went on in here last November, October. All the scrapes, everything has been preserved over the winter, the rubs. And normally you'd have to wait for snow melt to see all that, but we have not had any snow of any type really here in Northeast Iowa this winter. It's been one heck of an odd winter. And I just couldn't resist getting out here today. It's really nice, as I said, and doing a little scouting. Don't want to push anything out of our hunting ground, so I'm going to hit some other stuff. And you never know, might find a bonus shed. So this is the time. You can identify good bedding areas. Like I said, the scrapes, rubs, all that's preserved. It's just like it was left in November. And you can really go right in without having to worry about intruding upon deer, especially in these public grounds, like you would if you were scouting in October leading up to November. So we're gonna do a little speed scout this afternoon because I don't have a ton of daylight here. It's still getting dark about 5:45, and it's probably about 3:30 now. So gonna keep moving along, and as I find something cool, follow along with me. I'll film it and we'll talk about it. So hang with me here. February 7th, Friday afternoon, The Edge Whitetails. So what I'm doing is I've hunted in some of this area before, mostly duck hunting, jumping some of the ponds for wood ducks and stuff, a little bit of turkey hunting as well. And I know how thick some of this is, so I'm ducking in along here, and then this ends up meeting up with the river. So I know there's a whole bunch of thick stuff right up in through this high rise and 300 yards all the way down to the river. So I'm going to work my way through some of this thick stuff, and then what I really want to get to is the southwest corner of this and really look that over, because I found some sheds in here a couple years ago, and I do have one stand set up. Now granted, that stand is not there because this is public ground and you got to have that stuff out, but I do have one set up in that area that I keep a tree on Onyx. I keep it marked, and I can go in and just easily set that up either, in October or even the day I hunt. I can go in there. I've got a couple trees picked out. If I take my climber, I can get right up in it. So the mission today is to find a couple more trees, a couple other spots to add to that. That way you got your options open as you hunt through the fall. You know, if you've got great access to great ground, like I'm blessed with, that's not the end all be all of your hunt. You can have years that, or certain stretches that you don't have a lot going on in your ground, and if you want to utilize the most of your time, you need to have backup options. And that's exactly what we're doing here today, is finding backup options. And you can utilize that Onyx and mark this stuff, and then later on in the year you can thumb back through Onyx and go, oh, why did I have this marked? Onyx has the label feature. You can plug in that you want to put a stand there. You can plug in that, hey, this is where I found a bunch of scrapes and rubs. The list goes on. So definitely use that technology along with the boots on the ground scouting, and you can really put a backup plan puzzle piece together. Or overall, if you're just strictly a public land hunter, permission farms, whatever, you can put a good game plan together that way. So we're going to keep rolling along. Scrape right there, right along the main trail. So we're going to see what we can drum up. So yeah, much like that, the winter just kind of preserves that. Now, granted, we didn't have the snow, and usually a good snow and ice pack will really preserve it. But as you can see, it looks, you know, scrapes like that look exactly like they did as if you were walking in here through the November month. So definitely one thing to keep in mind as you well, I can't call this spring scout. This is late winter scout. Even if you want to call it late winter, it might be a midwinter scout. It just seems like spring in here today because it's no snow and lots of leaves. So good and crunchy, hardly any wind today, which makes it perfect for me as far as this goes. So rolling along, looking for more sign, and putting those puzzle pieces together. So I found really kind of what I would be looking for in a public land hunting situation. I just came out of all of this thick stuff. Now that went for up through there, that probably went 150 yards, and it goes all the way up around this pond over here. And while that had a pinch point up there, it didn't have a ton of sign, but this one trail comes down out of here, and then there's an open area up through here, a series of big scrapes right here all in a row. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another main trail that leads off this way, and another main trail that leads off this way. Now I would ideally try to find something right in here with a tree. Now why I really like this on a public land setup, this is a long ways from the parking lot for one. Generally, maybe not so much anymore these days, but generally if you get a long ways from the parking lot, you get away from other hunters and the pressure. Secondary, what I really like, and actually this should probably be more important, all of this sign is right off of thick cover. So if you can sneak in here, find yourself a good route. That access is also really key. But if you can slip in here around this thick cover, you can catch a buck moving in daylight on this type of sign. This is very, very ideal. Being this far back in, that thick cover, you can hunt this on a northwest wind, set up off to probably the northeast, and catch them either coming up and scent checking all that thick stuff or coming out of that thick stuff. And either way, your wind would be right, you're on the fringe, and just a good setup right here. This is definitely something I'm going to plug into Onyx as I roll along here this Friday afternoon. So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for when I'm doing this. And again, this is super, super speed scouting. I know I got sunglasses on, but it just, clouds are kind of rolling in, and I just want to cover as much ground tonight as I can. And honestly, it's just really nice to be out in the woods and walking in the fresh air. So all the while keeping my eyes peeled for a for an antler. I don't have super high hopes on that, but you never know. Might get lucky. Be a good day to get lucky, actually. So we're going to keep on rolling along. It's super, super quiet out here. I just heard a squirrel, and he's like all the way across the pond. So all the well, very nice afternoon, early evening. All right, so I found another classic setup here. I'm going to flip the camera. So down out of all this thick stuff, now I know this thick stuff runs for a couple hundred yards now, and it all pinches down. There's trails coming out of here, and then right up along the pond, and it all pinches down right on what we would call this little ridge. Just a high spot in the river bottom, but it all pinches down right here, and then it goes out into, there's a set-aside field over there that's private property, but it all pinches down right here. This would be a great rut spot in November when they're cruising. Usually when I've walked back here before, I have seen a stand that somebody left or something. I'm actually really surprised to not see one down in this area. But this is definitely a classic, really good setup. I've actually found sheds down in this area before, but I have yet to see anything. But you never know. You never know. But yeah, that's another thing I'm always looking for. Pinch points, of course. And like we just saw earlier, that rut sign. And I'll actually focus more on a pinch point like this than I will the scrapes and whatnot. But this is definitely a spot, and you can find something similar like this, and especially in a river bottom setting. As you know, most of the stuff I hunt's all river bottom, so keep that in your bag of tricks as well. Pinch points, especially in November. So this is another type of area I'll look for. Not so much to set up on, but this is a high rise up out of the river bottom. When we say high rise, or when I say high rise on a river bottom, that's an elevation change of like 5 to 6 feet. It's really not much. But as you can see in here, some of the trees naturally died, and they let some sunlight to the ground, and all this vegetation come up. Now this is going to be a classic bedding spot for a big buck, because he can get up on this little knob and he can see, he can lay up right up in here. As you can see, there is some bedding here, and he can look all along this, and he can see a long ways, and then put a northwest wind at his back, and he's got all this thick cover behind him too. So that's another thing I'm always looking for, no matter where I'm scouting, is a bedding area like this. This is the type of stuff that a big buck will gravitate to and utilize a lot, come back to over and over again. It's just a perfect setup for him to not be in any danger. If he smells something coming, he can slip right out the back door here and get away from it really quick. So that's always something I'm looking for too, is not only where I'm going to set up, but where they might be bedding for my other setups and where they may be coming from. So another good tip there, another good setup spot as far as a distance away, knowing in your mind that he's probably bedding in this area. Now as I walk, I added to the little bedding area I just talked about, because a bunch of trees must have fallen in here. Well, I can actually, that a bunch of trees fell in here, and all this vegetation came up. Now granted, it's matted down right now, but you can only imagine must have looked like in September, October, November even. And actually there's a nice rub right there. It's putting everything together, bedding, good cover, good wind direction, and I can realize that I just need to make a setup a distance away from this, 100 yards or so, and close in as good as I can and as quietly as I can in the fall. Definitely a spot that's getting marked on onX for me. Now this is definitely something I like to look for as well. I'm sure it's probably multiple bucks, but this thing's shredded up. And the cool part is there's another one just right there, all throughout this little area here. And what this is honestly telling me is I think this is right in a buck's core area come October and November, because as I'm going to flip the camera again, this is super thick all through here and everywhere I just came through. And then to come across something like that is a pretty surefire sign that you've reached a big buck's core area as far as his bedding area, and where he'll spend some time in daylight hours and get up, mill around a little bit, lay back down. This would definitely be something to set up nearby with the right wind and right access to get in quietly and catch a big buck in daylight, especially like in October when we're leading up to the rut and those type of situations. So this is definitely getting marked on onX, and something super cool to find. It really gets the blood going, being out here in the woods and coming across stuff like this, even though it's February. So if you got whitetail in your blood, that kind of stuff always gets you going. So really a lot of cool finds so far today. No bone, but like I said, I really wasn't too optimistic on that, but always got the thought in my mind, and the eyes are always scrolling. So as you can see, that shredded tree was right over there. I come a little ways, headed in a westerly direction. There's a big scrape. There's another rub. It's definitely the edge of a buck's bedding area, and where he would work out to head on out to end up feeding later on, like on an evening hunt, or you'd catch him coming back in. So definitely a good setup, and believe me, it's already marked on onX. Definitely the type of stuff you want to look for in your midwinter scouting. Well, it's winding down. No antlers. Like I said, pretty much expected that, but a lot of good intel for the upcoming 2025 season. Definitely some stuff I'm jotting down and putting in my notes and marking on onX, and you too can get out there and do this right now. Especially in Northeast Iowa, we have no snow. This is the perfect time to get this job done, and honestly, it's quite exciting for me. I love doing this right now. It really gets me fired up. I've got a new PSE bow coming in a couple weeks. Just everything. Whitetail season never ends in the Johnston household, as you can see. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up on February 7th as the sun's starting to set behind me. Appreciate you all watching. If you have not yet, hit that subscribe button. It would really help us out at the channel. And we'll have some shed hunts coming up soon. I'll probably touch base with you here in another week, see what we can drum up on what we've got going on. Just patiently waiting for most of the bucks in our ground to drop their antlers. So for that, gonna wrap this up, and as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, get outdoors.